So we're going to finish with a few extras here. So we have this background view that we're going to switch every time we have a different data. So for every 5 days, we're going to have a different color. So here you're going to see in the view hierarchy that we have this UI image view outlet, and it defaults to just one gradient. So here you can see on the right side that we're using this asset. So this is gradient number 2. And what we're going to do here, we're going to be using different assets that we have for this application. So for example, for cold weather, we could use shades like blue, green, like so. And for warmer weather, so warmer temperature, we could use something like orange, yellow, and so forth. Something that inspires sunny weather. So we're going to be doing that. So that's going to be based on a condition. So we're going to go back to the animation file, so the extension, this one. And here at the top, you're going to see that we are assigning this string in order to refer to the gradient, so the name file, the file name of one of the gradients, and that's going to be stored to that constant, so that is a string. And then we call that function that takes 2 parameters. So we're going to be looking at this function in a moment. So first, this first parameter, so that's going to be the background view, which is our outlet, and second, so that's going to be to image, and that's going to be this image view that we define right here. So that's going to be a default, so the default gradient that we have in the storyboard, and then switching to the next one, which is going to be this one. So for now it defaults to 1, so that's just one default, so it's hard-coded. We're going to have a condition later on. We're going to find this function right here, so the 2 parameters, so image view, so that's going to be our outlet that we have in the storyboard. And then the toImage, so toImage will be the name of the other file that we want to switch to. And so we're calling this method transition with view on the UI view class, and this one takes several parameters. So the image view that we pass as parameter from here to here, so that's going to be the background view. And then there's going to be also a durations parameter, so that's going to be 1 second. Then we also have options for that method, so that's going to be transition cross dissolve in order to create the crossfade animation effect. Then we have the animations closure, and this is where we're going to create the animations in order to transition from whichever we have as an asset to this one, which is going to be the new gradient. So that's going to be the new gradient that we're going to assign as an image property to image view, which is going to be the background view. So let's go back to the top so we can actually understand how it works when we actually call this method. So fade image view. So here we have the background view that we pass as a parameter. So that's going to be our outlet. So we have a current gradient right now that we saw as a default. And then when we switch to the next one, which is going to be to image, we're going to have a cross dissolve animations going to the next one, which is going to be this one, image view, which is gradient 1. So we're going to be transitioning, so you're doing a crossfade animation from the gradient number 2 to gradient 1, like so. So what we want to do next is to allow to randomly select a gradient based on the temperature of the city for a day, for a specific day. And for that, we're going to use another function, and that's going to be this one below, which is going to be random background view. And this one takes a parameter, which is a bool, that's going to be true or false, meaning that we're going to be checking if the temperature is at a certain level, then we're going to return whether true or false, in order to return so either cold or hot. So we're going to have a selection of gradients, so for the cold weather, and another series of gradients for the hot weather. And if not cold, so if it's not cold, we're going to then select assign an index for, so I'm doing a random, so we're going to generate a random index first for the specific, so the one that we want to select depending if it's true or false. So that's going to be the cold gradient count. So we're going to be generating a random index for the number of objects that we have in an array. And then we're going to return an index and pass it to the cold gradients array, and then assign an array as a string to the gradient variable that we have right here. So we're going to return anyway a gradient right here. So with this function, we're going to call this one and then assign it to another constant, and then pass this constant to this function right here in order to apply the new image view, the new gradient. So we're going to go step by step. We're going to write some code because that's going to make more sense by writing some code. So what we're doing here, instead of hard coding the image view, we're going to be writing this function. So that's going to be random background view, and we want to return a true or false. So we're going to be writing a statement. So that's going to be forecast. We want to get the temperature for a specific day. So every time we switch to a new day, we're going to be looking at the temperature level. And if this temperature level is more than 20, it's going to return either true or false. So we may expect, so right now this is more like spring, so we may expect to return something more like false. In that case, if it's false, we're going to have cold temperature. And if it's cold temperature, so if we go back to the function, and what happens in that function is that because we expect it to be false, so that's going to be if not true, so that's going to be this bool right here. If not true, we're going to run this code. So first we're going to generate a random integer, which is going to correspond to the number of objects that we have in the cold gradient array. And then we're going to assign this random integer to index, and that's going to be passed right here. We're going to be able to assign a random string object, so that's going to be either gradient 1, gradient 2, and gradient 3. If we go back to the assets, you're going to see that we have these gradients right here. So that's going to be either 1, 2, 3, or gradients without a number. And then after we do that, we're going to return this gradient, which is a string. So we go back right to the top, we're going to have this string. We don't know which one, and that's going to be then assigned to this as an image, so a new image asset to this function fade image view. So once we get that, we're going to try it. We're going to save, and then we're going to run the application. And now we can see that we switch to a new color every time we switch weather data. And that's always a random gradient for the cold weather only.